You've probably been hearing a lot about gold IRAs lately, right? With all the talk about inflation and market swings, they're everywhere, pitched as this super safe way to protect your retirement with a real tangible asset. But how do they actually work? And what are the hidden risks? Well, let's cut through all that noise and figure out what a gold IRA really is, and more importantly, if it might be right for you.
So let's start with the big one. Can you actually hold shiny physical gold like coins and bars inside a tax-advantaged retirement account? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true. And the short answer is yes, you absolutely can. But, and this is a big but, it is not as simple as buying some gold and hiding it under your mattress. The government has some very strict rules you have to play by.
So what exactly is a gold IRA? Well, at its core, it's a special kind of IRA called a self-directed IRA. And that phrase, self-directed, is the magic word here. It basically means you, the investor, get way more control over what you invest in. You can go beyond the usual stocks and bonds and hold alternative assets, like actual, physical, precious metals.
This right here really gets to the heart of the difference. Your typical IRA, it deals in what we call paper assets. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, things that really just exist as data on a computer screen. A gold IRA, on the other hand, is built to hold physical, tangible metal that you own. Which, of course, brings up a really interesting question. If you own the gold, can you actually hold it? We're going to get to that in just a minute.
Okay, so how does this whole thing actually come together? It's definitely not as simple as just buying some gold coins and calling it an IRA. There's a very specific process, and it involves three key players that all have to work together to make sure everything is done by the book. Let's walk through it. Step 1, you have to open an account with a specialized custodian. Think of the custodian as the bank for your gold. They're an IRS-approved company that handles all the paperwork and manages the account. Step 2, you fund the account. This is usually pretty easy. You can just roll over money from a 401k or another IRA. And finally, step 3, and this part is absolutely critical. The custodian uses your funds to buy the metal for you, and it gets shipped directly to a super high-security IRS-approved depository for storage. You never, ever touch the gold yourself. And that brings us to probably the most important part of this whole discussion, the rules. You see, the IRS has incredibly strict guidelines for what kind of precious metals you can hold in an IRA. And if you don't follow these rules to the letter, you could lose all those great tax benefits and even face some really nasty penalties.
Yeah, the IRS is the ultimate referee in this game. They are not interested in letting you stash family heirlooms or your cool, rare coin collection in a tax-advantaged account. The rules are specifically designed to make sure you're holding investment-grade bullion, not collectibles that have a more subjective, hard-to-pin-down value.
And really, for gold, it all boils down to this one number, 99.5%. That is the minimum purity, or fineness, that most gold products need to have to be eligible for an IRA. For silver, it's even higher at 99.9%. This isn't a suggestion, it's a hard and fast rule. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it means popular, widely traded investment coins, like the American Gold Eagle or the Canadian Maple Leaf, are usually good to go. But anything that gets its value from being rare, old, or pretty is out. We're talking collectible coins, your grandmother's jewelry, art, antiques, even fancy rugs. The IRS views all of that as collectibles, and they are strictly forbidden in an IRA. Okay, this is the part of the explainer where we need to get very, very direct. Because there's a lot of money involved, and it can be a little complicated. The gold IRA world is unfortunately full of potential traps and even outright scams that you absolutely have to know about before you even think about diving in. Let's just start with the biggest, most dangerous myth out there, one that some companies actually and dishonestly promote. This is the official word, and it could not be more clear. You cannot legally store the gold from your IRA in your own house. Not in a safe, not in a safe deposit box at your bank, not anywhere that you have direct control. It must be held by that third-party depository we talked about, period. That's a fair question, right? If the rule is so clear, what are the actual consequences if you break it? Is it just a little slap on the wrist? Not even close. $300,000. And no, that is not a random number I just pulled out of a hat. That is roughly what one unlucky couple had to pay in taxes and penalties, all because they broke that one simple rule. Let's dig into how that even happened. So here's the deal. In a pretty famous court case, McNulty versus the commissioner, the IRS made a landmark ruling. They said that the second those investors took physical possession of their IRA's gold coins, their entire IRA was instantly considered a full withdrawal. Boom, just like that. They owed income tax on the entire value of their account, plus early withdrawal penalties on top of that. It was a complete financial catastrophe for them. And that home storage trap is just the tip of the iceberg. You also have to watch out for insane markups over the spot price of gold, which is its live market price. In one case, a firm was charging people markups of 130%. I mean, that's just crazy. You also need to be really wary of those high-pressure, this is a limited-time offer sales tactics. Dig deep to find hidden fees for storage and admin, and always double-check that a dealer isn't trying to sell you collectible coins that, as we now know, aren't even allowed in an IRA in the first place. Okay, so after covering how it works, the nitty-gritty rules, and the very real risks, we finally land at the big question. Should you actually think about getting one of these for your retirement? Let's just lay it all out. On the pro side, yeah, gold is historically seen as a great hedge against inflation, and there's a real sense of security in owning a tangible asset. It's a classic way to diversify your portfolio. But the cons are just as real. You're going to pay annual fees for storage and insurance that you don't have with stocks. Gold doesn't pay you dividends or interest, so the only way you make money is if the price goes up, and it's less liquid, which is just a fancy way of saying it can be slower and more complicated to sell and turn back into cash. So who is the ideal person for a gold IRA? Well, it's usually an investor who already has a pretty big, well-funded retirement plan full of traditional assets like stocks and bonds. For that person, taking a small slice of their portfolio, say 5 or 10%, and putting it into gold can be a smart, strategic move to hedge against risk. On the flip side, it's often not a great fit for younger investors just starting out. When you're early in your career, you generally need the aggressive long-term growth potential that the stock market can offer through things like compounding dividends. Since gold's return is only based on its price, and those annual fees can take a much bigger bite out of a smaller account, it can actually slow down your growth. And so that really brings us to the final question that you have to ask yourself. In today's world of digital everything, does adding a heavy, physical, tangible asset make sense as an anchor for your financial future? Honestly, the answer is different for everyone. It completely depends on your own personal goals, how much risk you're comfortable with, and where you are on your investing journey. Wow, we have covered a ton of ground today, but really, this is just scratching the surface. Making a big financial decision like this takes a lot of careful research and due diligence. So, to help you out, we've put a link to a completely free comprehensive guide in the description below. It digs way deeper into the rules, the costs, and the strategies, and it's the perfect next step to help you decide if a gold IRA is truly the right move for you.